Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Legend. I'm here with an episode of Legend Plays Minecraft, and today we are back on the DiamondFire server for another coding tutorial. Today we're going to be going over sign inputs. So let's go ahead and throw a quick example on the screen. Alright, so here's how the system's going to work. You're going to be able to do whatever type of activation you want. So if you want to force it by something happening in the game, like a game starts, or you have a timer, and once the timer hits, you have to input something or whatever. You can do whatever you want, but in this case, we're just going to be doing right click with this, and you can actually have instructions down here. All the instructions you want in the world can be on these bottom three lines, and then you actually have an input on the top line. So in this case, let's just say hello, and then you can use this input for whatever you want, but in our case, we're just going to be sending it as a message like that. It says hello. You can say whatever you freaking want on the sign, and it will say it in the chat. You can use this for whatever you want, and just have fun with it. Cool. Alrighty, so now that you know what we're going to be making, let's get into how we make it. So, player event, join game. We're going to need to go ahead and set a location for each individual player to a location where we're going to be modifying a sign for their input. So let's go ahead and repeat on grid, and then get a variable called loc, or whatever you want to name it. We can just use a local variable in this case. And then let's go ahead and get two locations to go between. Let's go from one side of the plot, and in your case, you probably want to do this underground or just somewhere that the player doesn't see it, so you don't have a weird random line of signs. But in our case, for example purposes, we're going to do it above the surface. So put those two locations in. So this is going, basically what repeat on grid does is it'll repeat between two locations, and the variable inside is the current location that it's on. So its first iteration is going to go right here where I'm standing, and then the second one, the variable is going to be equal to this, and so on and so forth. And so what we're going to use this for is, what we're going to do is if game block equals, and then at the location we specified, and then I'm going to get oak sign, boom. So if block equals oak sign, and then we're going to go ahead and get the not arrow and put that on. So if it's not a sign at that location, then we know that it's error, and we know that that location is not in use. So what we can do is say /var percent default sign loc, and then let's go ahead and just get a set variable and set sign loc equal to the current location. And then what we can also do is just stop repeating, and then what we can do here in the loop is just make it a wait 0, so it does it all pretty much instantly. So once it finds a good location, it'll set it, and then it'll stop repeating. What we also need to do here is go ahead and say set block at that location to the oak sign. And so if we join, oak sign is set. Now the problem is when we leave, it's still there. So what we're going to need to do very, very simply is grab that location for the player, and then let's go ahead and put down a player quit event, and then we're going to go ahead and do a game action break block at that location. Cool. So now if we join, there's a sign. If we leave, yep, it breaks. Perfect. Now we have a system to set players' individual locations for the sign manipulation. Now let's go ahead and get into the actual inputting. So in our case, we're going to go ahead and just say, when they click a certain item. So let's go ahead and give them an item. Oops. So item management, give items, and then let's go ahead and say just a stick, input stick or something is what we'll name it. Let's give them that. And now if they right click, if they're holding the input stick, we'll go ahead and run this. So if player's holding the input stick on their main hand, everything inside this will run. So now we're going to actually get into the manipulating of the sign. So here's a couple options you have. If you want to use all 4 lines of the sign, because let's look at a sign real quick. You could have different inputs for each line. This could be a number down here, this could be the name, and then whatever you want to do here. Or what we can do is have only one line entry, which is what we're going to do in this example. but you can very easily manipulate this to get all lines. But in our case, we're going to do one line, so a name, or just a text that's going to send once we click the done button here. So like we would say hello, and then, but the other cool thing is going to be we can actually have instructions on the sign that they're editing. So it could be like, put your input on the, or in the first line, yes, or something like that. Either way, you get the point. You can go ahead and set different instructions in the sign too, which would be pretty cool. So let's get into how we're actually gonna make that happen. So if they're holding it, then we're gonna want to go ahead and, well, let's make sure we have their location variable here. Okay, and then what we're going to want to do is say game action, and we're going to need also a player action. So player action, the first basic thing would be trying to figure out how you actually open it, how you get the sign open to modification. So in this case, we're going to use open block inventory, and we're going to use the location. So now already, if we go into the game, we should, if we right click, yep, open a sign, and we can actually get input. And as you can see here, there is actually modification happening. Cool. Now we actually need to be able to detect when they're inputting. So what we're going to do is say, really quick, let me explain something. So if we just, when they click, if we are like repeating and like waiting for the input to be on the sign, there could be problems. Like if they just don't set input and they just click done, it would be blank, and so you have this infinite loop right here. It's not going to stop, and they're not going to be able to detect. So what we're going to need to do is set a special code on the first line, or something like whatever line you're going to be using to modify. What we're going to need to do is set a code on that sign. So we're going to need to get a variable first, which is going to be the actual code. And the trick is you have to set it just in case they have like the same input as this code, which we'll just set to a random number anyway, so it's a very low chance. What we can do, actually we don't need the code. We just need to, basically what we just need to do is set a text that is longer than the actual input. So if we just go ahead and say, you know, text dash 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 blah 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 blah, a ton of dashes on this thing. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and say set the, or change sign at the location. Let's grab the location at this location, and then boom, that's gonna be for the first line. So if we just double check here, so we put the number of the line, so in this case the first line, and then we just put a ton of dashes. So if I go play, as you can see, actually I might not have enough dashes, but if you can see, there's dashes appearing, but they're not appearing on my actual thing. Yeah, I think I actually just need more dashes, in fact, because that doesn't seem like it's enough. Unless, let me just see, maybe it actually restricts you. Oh, it actually restricts you. Well, that's unfortunate. So we are going to need a code. Set var code, and we can just make that local because we only need it in this line. And then let's just use a text %random. Let's make it a high number, like 9999. Or let's do random between 10,000 and 99,999. And screw it, let's add one more number to that, just in case. So we'll just have a random code in here, and then we'll go ahead and say, set that on the sign. And so if we go into play now, and we edit it, you can see there's a random code popping up each time, but we don't see it on here, that's the thing. So now, what we can do is go ahead and say, I believe it's, I might be wrong on this. Let me just make sure. If I change the sign after we open it, at the location, and for, let's say, line 2 this time, and we'll add like a little instruction, input, text input on line 1. Oops. Okay, let's see. I don't know. I'm not 100%. It's one of these two. Okay, it's setting. Let's add just a slight weight. Let's start with just a 3 tick, and then we might be able to just get away with a 0 tick. Probably will. Okay, so the thing is, it's actually before. So real quick, we're actually just have to change our order real quick. So right here, we just set the location, or set the sign text. So we're just going to move the open inventory to before we actually set the code on the sign. And then we need to add just a little weight right here. Position 3. Just a little weight. There we go. So now, okay, we are having a problem with the text is going to show up because we're not clearing it after the input yet. But if we just do our first input with the blank sign, you can see the instructions will show up, but the code isn't showing up. But it is on the sign. That's important. It is on the sign. And I think we can probably just get away with a little 3 or 0 tick here. Let's just make sure that I'm wrong and put a 1 tick. And once again, we're just gonna have to increase that number. Go on, two's gotta work, right? It's gotta. Yeah, alright. 2 tick it is. Good enough for me. Alright, now we actually have to start detecting when they are done. Or when the input has been made. So, what we're gonna do is go ahead and set a variable. /var text. Set it to local, and we'll set it to code because that's what's going to be on the sign at first. And then we're going to say repeat while condition if variable equals, if text is equal to code. Okay, but now what we're going to be doing inside the repeat is getting sign text. So the text, and then at line 1, and then the location. So we're going to get the sign text. And let's just constantly set or send that as a message. Or let's just go ahead and send a message after this is no longer repeating. Let's send like complete as the message. Oops. /text complete. Boom. It's gonna send us the message that it's complete. Let's also make sure we add a wait in here so we don't fast loop. Let's wait by just 1 tick, and then let's go into the game and we're gonna go look at the sign as we do this. So it's going to be there, and then if we input just literally blank, then nothing happens. Oh, okay. We need to open we still need to open it after the sign text is set, but we don't want to have it display, so that's why we're not waiting there. Open block inventory. Oops. Frick, man, I keep messing up here. No, open block inventory. There we freaking go. Jeez Louise. Either way, so we're setting the sign location, but we're not waiting, so it's not going to actually register and appear on our screen, the code, but it's going to appear on here. So now if we click done, as you see, it says complete. It updates the sign, and we're all good. Freaking epic. Now, actually, instead of sending complete, let's go ahead and send that text. So it should say whatever we say, right? So if we go here and we just say, hello. Boom! Look at that. We're good to go. Now we have the actual input, right? This is actually detecting and doing the input properly. And it's freaking epic. It protects against, if you have someone who just puts an empty input, you can go ahead and play around with this as far as like making your own system to be like, hey, you put nothing, so I'm not actually going to send this message or something like that. You can make your own system there, but that's going to go ahead and do it for this tutorial. You can do whatever you want. You have an input, it's the text, blah, 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 blah. Do whatever you want with it. Have fun. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you found it useful. And I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. One thing I forgot, we actually have to clear the sign. So let's go ahead. The easiest thing actually, well, instead of setting on all lines, what we're just going to do is go ahead and break and then place it back. So break it, and then at that location, we're going to set it back. So let's just make sure that works. There you go. It's resetting every time, as you can see. Cool. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. Yes. Bye.